Ronald Vickroy's career has taken him around the world, but it all started in Johnstown, and his contributions to the area have been long-lasting.
Graduated Johnstown High School in 1966, and like most people, had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. But as a junior in high school, I attended an assembly, and I decided then and there that's what I wanted to do with my life. So sure enough, over the next 2 years, I decided I would apply to the United States Air Force Academy, because if I was going to do anything, I was going to fly airplanes.
After his service in the Air Force, Ron and his family moved to Florida to work in the real estate business, but soon later realized that career path was not for him.
So we at that time, we just had one boy. Donna was pregnant, so we had Brett, and the three of us headed off to Florida. And we built a brand new house down there, lived in it for a month, believe it or not. As a result, I did sales, I did construction, I did the whole 9 yards. And I was working 7 days a week, so I couldn't play golf. The kids couldn't get splashed on by any of you. I got on a phone call with my wife, I said, we're out of here. I don't care if I have to go home to ask, we're going back home.
Ron found his passion in the classroom, teaching marketing and management classes at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown.
But everything I did seemed to revolve around teaching. I was pretty good at it. I said, I want to give this a shot. So I did. And as it turned out, it was the best move I ever made in my entire life. I was up at the University of Pittsburgh for 28 plus years.
In addition to his distinguished teaching career, Ron has been very involved in the community, serving on the board of several organizations throughout the area.
I decided to leave Laurel Highlands. Says, would you be involved in healthcare? Now we're talking mid-1980s here. I said, I don't know anything about it. He says, no, it's a foundation, we really could use your help. I said, sure, no problem. Well, I got involved, obviously, starting at the foundation, and Jack Crichton gave me the first opportunity to go to Conemaugh. And they said at that time, they were forming a system. I said, well, tell me a little bit more about, what Conemaugh plans to do. And he said, we want to build a system so that we don't have people that are heading down to Pittsburgh for their care. I said, well, that's interesting. We want to keep healthcare local.
To this day, Ron says his success does not lie in his work, but in the lives of the students he taught.
I can't explain success in a nutshell, but I can tell you this. Okay, what contributed, what was most important to me was my students. I get a real thrill out of seeing them being promoted, them being honored for their work. And I knew they would. My success, I guess, is I see in the success of others, their promotions, their acceptance. So people are very, very important to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ron Vickroy. Wow. Everybody's sticking around, I guess. I'm last on the list. I'm going to try to be as short as I possibly can be. But first of all, I'd like to congratulate my fellow laureates. As Robbie suggested, I've known Robbie for some time, Chris, and of course I had some experience with Jay back in the early turn of the century. My first note of thanks goes to the Lord Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Without Him, I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't be standing up here. I'd like to thank the Greater Johnstown, Cambria County Chamber of Commerce, Bobby Leo, Debbie Orner, Selection Committee, those who were involved in the John Gunner Leadership Series. John certainly was a good friend of mine. Jennifer Nepper at the Junior Achievement for the photos, evening activities, but she did tell me I only had 2.5 minutes up here, so I had to cut things down very quickly. So I'm going to cut them down, but I'm still going to hold to the story, as I told Mark McCall back in the corner. What I wanted to share with you is what I've learned. I wanted to turn the tables a little bit. I've asked my students to, tell me, what they have learned. I'm going to tell you basically what I learned. I learned not to say never. Because in 1967, as I was leaving Johnstown, I thought I'd bring back this place. What was I wrong? Real quick. I wouldn't leave this place. Nobody can tear me away from this place in any way, shape, or form. And my sons, I think, are testaments as well. I learned about the importance of people from special people. Special men, most of them are laureates here. They would include people like Jack Crichton, whose name I mentioned earlier, Charlie Kunkel, Dick Mayer, who could make it this evening, John Gunter, and I think was actively involved in John Gunter Leadership Series, interestingly enough, early on. Bob Rose, Donnie Zucco, Bill Horner, Jim Edwards. I can go on and on and on and on here. Skip picking and Del picking. You're all familiar with that. You know where I stand on that. Very special people, good people to know. I learned about the power of loyalty and diversity at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown. I want to thank some special people there, more specifically John McGrath, Doug Reed. You guys are great, really great, thank you. I want to thank Dr. Spector. And the University of Pittsburgh was a major sponsor of this particular program. I actually saw my picture. That's something else I want to tell you about. I don't know where that picture came from. Actually, everybody's coming to me, man, you're much older, you know, you have a good looking picture there. And I said, hey, I didn't have anything to do with that. They asked me for a picture. I sent one in whenever I was lecturing up at UPJ, and they said, it won't work. And I said, well, then go to the hospital. And they pulled one out from the year 2000. So that's me. My wife hates that picture because I look like I'm in the mafia. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I learned about the power of vision. The power of vision from Scott Becker. Scotty Becker. And his senior team at Conway Health System. Board members, previous board members, Norm Krumanacher, Jim Hargraves, previous chairman there. I can't believe what's going to happen in this community over the next 5 to 10 years. We are going to see a major transformation. And when I first came here, it was all about steel, it was about coal. It's going to be about services, it's going to be about health services. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. And I've learned about the power of love via my family. And if I could, I'd just like to introduce you to my family. You guys can stay seated. But the matriarch who isn't here is going to be turning 92. I think 92, 93, something like that, Donna? Phyllis Levergood. She's the matriarch of our family. She keeps us all glued together. The patriarch is sitting at the table. Okay, drove all the way up from McConnellsburg, actually my wife on leave. Was a World War II vet. And I think he is pushing 91 come August, right? Thanks, Uncle Lee, for being here. And of course, I want to turn to my immediate family, and I'll start with the guys first, and I'll start with my brother Dennis, and he's somewhere here. Dennis and Connie, his lovely wife. Connie, where are you at? You guys, oh, back here. Over there somewhere. I can't see. He's older than I am. No, I'm just kidding. We hear that all the time. And then I'd like to mention David. David is a former PPG employee down in Pittsburgh, and my brother Rick, and his beautiful wife Lori. He is self-employed, drove up from Pittsburgh. My sons are both here tonight. Brett, who is employed in his own business in plumbing. Everybody has a leak, let us know. I was really pushing things here. And then, of course, we have Bart and his lovely wife, Stacy, who've given us 2 great grandkids. And everybody up here has talked about grandchildren. I'm going to talk about mine a little bit, briefly. I'll talk about Colt, and I'll talk about Wes, 2 big players in my life. And, of course, we have one to be named or determined that's going to come along in October. At least we hope October or September. Right, Stacy? Interestingly enough, I got to share this with you real quick. I mean, it's really quick. You know, Stacy, who is my daughter-in-law, I guess you'd call it, was the only child of my best friend, Tom Palmer. We have to be here tonight. He's down that way somewhere. Hi, Tom. Yeah. Quite. That's really something special to me. And then, of course, the last person on the list is Diane, my sister. Please stand, Diane. Yeah, she was at St. Francis for years in nursing. And then finally, my lovely wife, Donna. Stand up, Donna.
Oh, please.
You stand up. She didn't want to stand up. They say behind every good man is a good woman. They say behind every good man is a good woman. And there's plenty of women here tonight, but she is indeed the wind beneath my wings. Now, I've learned the importance of passion from those who are my legacy, and of course you've heard it throughout the video. I refer to the students that I've had at UPJ. I thought it fitting to leave you with a little story. And it was really my method of teaching. And I think there's a lot of people here either directly that I touched through teaching, either I had them as students, or their parents and they had their kids here, whatever. Could I say just a quick going around? Little raise your hands if you've been at all affected by me teaching, Brian and others. Thanks you guys for coming. Let me share this little story with you, and then we're done. The mayonnaise jar and 2 cups of coffee. Most of you have heard it, but I shared it with my senior level students the last day of class. The last day of class. When things in your life seem almost too much to handle, when 24 hours in a day are not enough, remember the mayonnaise jar and the 2 cups of coffee. Remember the story that Vickroy told, okay, at the Hall of Fame induction. A professor stood before his philosophy class and had some items in front of him when the class began. Wordlessly, he picked up a very large empty mayonnaise jar. You've all seen them, those big jobs. And proceeded to fill it with what? Golf balls, as you would expect, because golf is my passion. He then asked the students, "Look, Mr. Jar," he says, "Is that jar full?" They all looked and said, "Yeah, that's full." "Sure it is, it's full." The professor then picked up a box of pebbles, poured it into the jar. And of course, he shook the jar lightly, and the pebbles rolled into the open areas in between the golf balls. He then asked the students again if the jar was full, and they agreed it was. Well, not to be outdone, what happens? The professor reaches under and he grabs himself some sand and sticks sand now into that mayonnaise jar. And it covered all the cracks and holes in between the golf balls and the pebbles. And he asked again, "Is it full?" And they got a unanimous, "Yes, it's full." Not to be outdone, he reached under, grabbed himself 2 cups of coffee, and poured it in. And he asked if it's full, and they said yes, and of course everybody agreed and everybody laughed. That's cool. He said, "Now, I want you to recognize this jar represents your life. It represents your life. The golf balls are the important things in life. The golf balls are your God, your family, your children, your health, your friends. That's what the golf balls are about. Your favorite passions in life. Things that if everything else was lost, totally, everything else was gone, your life would still be very full. Your life would still be very full. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your house. Your life would still be full, would remain, your car, that kind of stuff. The sand is everything else. The sand is the small stuff. I should tell all the students, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's just unimportant. Now, if you put the sand into the jar first, he continued, there's no room for the pebbles or golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, all of your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are important to you. Pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness, like with your children or your grandchildren. Take time to get medical checkups. Take your partner out to dinner. Play another 18 holes of golf. There will always be time to clean the house, fix the garbage disposal, mow the lawn. Take care of the golf balls first. Things that really matter. Set your priorities in life. The rest is just sand. So one of the students raised her hand and inquired what the coffee represented. Where's the coffee? How does it fit in here? And the professor said, I'm glad you asked that. It just goes to show you that no matter how full your life may seem, no matter how full it is, there's always room for a couple cups of coffee with a friend. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here to honor these distinguished laureates and for your tremendous support of tonight's silent auction. The winners have been determined, and